Lieutenant Jake stared at the scanner screen, his eyes narrowing at the strange signal cutting through the void. The small patrol vessel hummed quietly around him, its engines barely making a sound in the darkness of space. They were 3 days out from a frontier colony that barely had enough people to call itself a town. "Got something weird here, Jake," Lisa said from the navigation station. Her fingers moved across the controls, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. "Distress beacon, but the frequency is all wrong. Never seen anything like it." Jake leaned forward in his command chair. "How wrong?" "Old, really old." Lisa pulled up another screen. "The signal pattern does not match anything in our database. It is like someone is calling for help in a language we forgot existed." Danny Pierce looked up from the weapons station, his young face curious. "Could be a trap. Pirates sometimes use fake distress calls to lure in rescue ships." "Out here," Maya called from the engine room, her voice coming through the comm system. "We are in the middle of nowhere. Pirates want targets with cargo worth stealing. We have got nothing but ration packs and spare parts." Jake considered their options. They were a small crew on a small ship not equipped for major rescue operations. But the regulations were clear. Any distress signal had to be investigated. "Lisa, set a course. Let us see what we find." The patrol vessel changed direction, moving toward the source of the signal. It took them 2 hours to reach the coordinates, and what they found made Jake sit up straight in his chair. The debris field stretched for miles in every direction. Pieces of metal and composite materials drifted in the darkness, some of them still glowing faintly from old fires. But it was the ship in the center that caught their attention. The fighter craft was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was sleek and angular, with lines that seemed both elegant and dangerous. The hull was covered in scars, deep gouges that spoke of countless battles. Strange symbols marked the armor plating, symbols that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. "That design," Lisa whispered. "It is not human, not any species I know." "Look at the damage," Danny said, zooming in on the hull. "Those burns are from energy weapons we do not even use anymore, and some of these scars look really old, like centuries old." Jake made his decision. "Maya, suit up. We are going over there. Danny, you have keep the engines hot in case we need to leave quickly." "You sure about this, boss?" Danny asked. "That thing gives me the creeps." "Noted, but someone is in there and they called for help." Jake and Maya crossed the distance between ships in their EVA suits, magnetic boots clanking against the fighter's hull as they found the airlock. To their surprise, it opened easily, as if it had been waiting for them. Inside, the ship was dark except for a few emergency lights that pulsed with a soft blue glow. The corridor was narrow, designed for someone smaller than a human. They had to duck their heads as they moved deeper into the vessel. They found him in what looked like a cockpit or command center. The alien was slumped in a chair that seemed to grow out of the floor itself. He had 4 arms, each one hanging limp at his side. His skin was a deep purple color, marked with silver patterns that might have been scars or tattoos. 2 large eyes dominated his face, currently closed. "Is he alive?" Jake asked. Maya pulled out her medical scanner. "Barely. His biology is strange, but I am reading a heartbeat. Multiple heartbeats, actually. I think he has 3 hearts and 2 of them have stopped working." As if hearing her voice, the alien's eyes opened. They were completely black, like looking into deep space. The alien's head turned slowly toward them and his mouth moved. No sound came out at first, just a dry, rasping noise. Then a device on his chest flickered to life, and a voice filled the small space. The translator was damaged, making the words skip and jump, but they could understand him. Who are you?" the alien whispered. "I am Lieutenant Jake, Human Space Force. This is Maya, our medic. We picked up your distress signal." The alien stared at them for a long moment. His expression was hard to read on such an unfamiliar face, but Jake thought he saw fear there. "Human? No, that is not possible. Humans are gone, dead, all dead." Jake exchanged a glance with Maya. "I do not know what you have heard, but humans are very much alive. We have colonies across dozens of systems." "How long?" the alien asked, his voice urgent despite its weakness. "How long have I been drifting?" Maya checked her scanner, looking at the ship systems. "According to your vessel's logs, your stasis pod has been active for 3,847 years." The alien made a sound that the translator could not process. His whole body shook, and for a moment Jake thought he was dying. But then he realized the alien was laughing. It was not a happy sound. 4,000 years, the alien said. 4,000 years and they still could not kill you all. Perhaps there is justice in the universe after all. Who are you? Jake asked gently. What is your name? I am of the people, or I was. I do not know if my people still exist. He coughed, a wet sound that made Maya's scanner beep in alarm. I was a fighter pilot, part of the Coalition fleet. What coalition? Maya asked, already working to stabilize his vital signs with what limited supplies she had. His eyes fixed on Jake with terrible intensity. The coalition that hunted your people across the galaxy. The coalition that burned your worlds and killed your families. The coalition that tried very hard to make sure humans would never reach the stars again. Jake felt his blood go cold. What are you talking about? Humanity has only been in space for 300 years. We come from Earth and Earth alone. No, said, and now there was sadness in his voice. That is what they wanted you to believe. That is the lie they told you, generation after generation, until you forgot the truth. The alien reached out with one of his forearms, moving with obvious pain. His hand gripped Jake's sleeve with surprising strength for someone so close to death. He pulled Jake closer, until their faces were only inches apart. Before you die, I will tell you who humans really are, whispered. I will tell you what we took from you, what we destroyed, what you have lost. Jake, Lisa's voice crackled over the comm. We are picking up something strange on the long-range sensors, energy signatures that match the fighter's design, multiple contacts all heading this way. His grip tightened. They are still watching. Even after all this time, they are still watching. You must listen to me. You must know the truth before they find you. Maya, how long does he have? Jake asked. Maya's face was grim behind her helmet. Hours, maybe. His injuries are too severe. I cannot do anything for him here. Then we take him back to our ship, Jake decided. Carefully, we need to hear what he has to say. They moved as gently as they could, carrying him between them back across the debris field to their patrol vessel. Danny had already prepared the medical bay, such as it was. They laid the dying alien on the examination table, and Maya immediately began hooking him up to what equipment they had. Jake stood beside the table, looking down at. The alien's breathing was shallow and labored. His translator device flickered, the power running low. Tell me, Jake said quietly, tell me what you know about humanity. His eyes met his. Your people once ruled half this galaxy. You were called the Inheritors. You built cities on dead worlds and made them bloom with life. You could do things that other species called impossible. Heal with a touch. Sense danger before it came. Move objects without laying a hand on them. That sounds like fantasy, Jake said, but his voice was uncertain. It was real. I saw it with my own eyes. Coughed again, and Maya had to wipe away the dark fluid that came from his mouth. 7 species came together in secret. They feared your power, they your gifts. They told themselves you were dangerous, that you would enslave the galaxy if given the chance. And you believed them, Jake said. I was young, foolish. I wanted to be a hero. His eyes closed. So I joined the Coalition fleet. I fought in the war. I dropped bombs on your colonies. I watched your cities burn. The ship was silent, except for the beeping of medical equipment and struggling breaths. We struck during a celebration, the alien continued. Your people were gathered across all your worlds, festivals of light and joy. We sabotaged your defenses from within. We had spies, traitors from other species who worked on your stations and ships. When we attacked, you had no warning. How many, Maya asked softly, how many died? Billions in the first week. Your people fought back, fought with everything you had. But you were not warriors by nature. You were builders, healers, teachers. You protected the evacuation ships instead of counterattacking. You saved your children and elders while your soldiers held the line. Opened his eyes again, and Jake saw tears there. I remember one world. I was part of the orbital bombardment. Below us, a human was holding a shield over a school, protecting the children while transports took them to safety. The shield should not have been possible. One person cannot stop weapons meant to destroy cities, but she did. She held that shield until every child was safe. Then our weapons tore her apart. Jake found his hands were shaking. He did not know if this story was true, but something about it felt real. It felt like a wound he had been carrying without knowing it existed. What happened to the survivors? He asked. The Coalition hunted them across the stars, but some escaped. Some hid so well that we could never find them, and some paused, his breath rattling. Some were caught and changed. There was a weapon, a genetic modification. It would pass from parent to child forever. It would make humans normal, ordinary. It would lock away all those gifts that made you special. The silence protocol, Maya whispered, reading something on her scanner. I am seeing something in our genetic code, markers that should not be there, sequences that look artificial. Nodded weakly. They modified you, erased your memories, put you on a prison world where you would never remember the stars, a world called Earth. You are saying humanity is not from Earth? Jake asked. Earth is where they put you to forget, to stay small and powerless. But you came back anyway. Somehow you found your way back to space. You remembered the stars without knowing why they called to you. The alien's breathing grew worse. His translator began to spark and fade. Why are you telling us this? Jake asked. Why now after 4,000 years? Because I have spent all that time running, said. Running from what I did, from the guilt that ate at me until I put myself in stasis sleep, hopping to wake in a universe where my crimes were forgotten. But the universe has a sense of irony. I wake to find that my greatest crime survived. You survived. He gripped Jake's hand again. Before I die, I will tell you the truth. I will give you back what we stole. There is a place, a coalition archive 3 systems from here. All our records, all our files, the proof of what we did. The proof of what you were, what you could be again. How do we find it? Jake asked. Smiled, a terrible expression on his alien face. I will take you there. One last mission. One last chance to do something right. The lights on his translator went dark. Slumped back, his breathing barely visible. Maya checked her equipment. He is stable for now, but Jake, if what he is saying is true. I know, Jake said. He looked at the alien warrior, this soldier from an ancient war who claimed to have helped destroy humanity. Lisa, set a course for the coordinates he gave us. Danny, send a coded message to command. Tell them what we found. What do we tell them? Danny asked over the comm. The patrol vessel moved through space at maximum speed, heading toward coordinates that had provided from memory. Jake stood in the medical bay, watching the alien warrior sleep. Maya had managed to stabilize him, but she warned that it would not last long. His body was failing, piece by piece. Admiral Hayes is on the comm, Lisa called from the bridge. Secure channel, eyes only. Jake made his way to the command chair. The flickered to life, showing a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair. Admiral Hayes had commanded the Frontier Fleet for 10 years, and she was known for taking bold action when needed. Lieutenant, she said without preamble, I received your report. I need to know if you believe this alien story. Jake thought carefully before answering. Ma'am, I do not know enough to say for certain, but Maya found something in our genetic code, artificial markers that should not exist. And the way he talks about the past, it feels real. He has details that would be impossible to make up. I have asked Dr. Cross to review your medical scans, Hayes said. He specializes in xenobiology and ancient history. He has been studying ruins on the far frontier, places where we found evidence of human presence on worlds we supposedly never visited. Human presence, Jake sat forward, before we left Earth. Exactly, cities buried under centuries of sediment. Writing that looks almost like ancient human languages, but older. Technology that matches human design principles, but far more advanced than anything we have now. Hayes paused. We kept it quiet because we did not know what it meant. We thought maybe it was coincidence, parallel evolution of ideas. But if your alien friend is telling the truth, then we have been looking at our own forgotten history. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you want us to do? Rendezvous with Dr. Cross at the coordinates gave you. His research vessel, the Pathfinder, is already en route. He has equipment that can properly scan whatever you find there. And Lieutenant, be careful. If someone tried to erase humanity's past, they might not be happy about us finding it again. The transmission ended. Jake sat in silence for a moment, then activated the ship-wide comm. Danny, Lisa, Maya, meet me in the briefing room. We need to talk about what comes next. They gathered around the small table that served as their conference area. Maya had left hooked up to automated medical systems, trusting them to keep him alive for a while longer. I have been thinking about what's said, Lisa began. About humans having special abilities. It sounds impossible, right? But there are stories, folk tales from Earth, people who could heal with their hands, people who knew things before they happened. We always called them myths or exaggerations. What if they were not myths? Maya said quietly. What if they were memories passed down through generations, distorted over time but based on real abilities that our ancestors had? Danny shook his head. Even if that is true, where did those abilities go? Why do not we have them now? The silence protocol, Jake said. The genetic modification mentioned. If they really did change our DNA, and if it passes from parent to child, then every human alive today would be affected. I ran some tests while you were talking to the Admiral, Maya admitted. I compared our genetic code to samples from other species in the database. We have sequences that do not match any natural evolutionary pattern. They are too precise, too deliberately structured, like someone edited our DNA the way you would edit a computer program. The implications hung heavy in the air. If what's said was true, then humanity had been deliberately crippled, generation after generation, for thousands of years. The archive, Jake said. If it exists, it will have proof, real evidence we can examine. Dr. Cross can verify it scientifically, then we will know for sure. They reached the rendezvous point 2 days later. The Pathfinder was waiting for them, a research vessel twice the size of their patrol ship. Dr. Cross contacted them immediately, his excitement clear even through the comm system. Lieutenant, I have been studying your medical scans and the data from your alien passenger. This is incredible. If even half of what he claims is true, it will rewrite everything we know about human history. He wants to come with us to the archive, Jake said. He claims he can guide us through their security systems. Bring him aboard the Pathfinder. I have better medical facilities here. Perhaps I can extend his life long enough to see this through. They transferred carefully, moving him in a portable medical pod. Dr. Cross met them in his main laboratory, a space filled with strange artifacts and ancient fragments from a dozen dead civilizations. The doctor was younger than Jake expected, maybe 40, with an eager energy that reminded him of a student rather than a leading researcher. Cross immediately began scanning with equipment that Jake had never seen before. Remarkable, Cross muttered. His species, they do not appear in any modern galactic records, but I have seen their writing before on ruins in the outer veil. Sites that were deliberately destroyed, bombed from orbit until nothing remained but rubble. Why would someone destroy ancient ruins? Maya asked. To hide evidence, Cross replied. To erase history. I have been finding these destroyed sites for years, always with the same pattern. Complete obliteration, as if someone wanted to make sure no one could study what was there. Stirred in the medical pod, his eyes opening slowly. Dr. Cross, your name precedes you. I have seen reports of your work, even in my weakened state. You are close to the truth, closer than you know. Tell me about the archive, Cross said, pulling up a star chart. Show me exactly where it is. With effort, raised one arm and pointed to a system on the chart. There, the second planet orbiting a dying red star. The system has no name in your records because it was deleted from all navigation databases. The Coalition wanted it forgotten. Jake studied the chart. The system was in a region marked as unexplored, which was strange. After 300 years of space travel, humans had mapped most of this sector. We can reach it in 6 hours, Lisa said, already calculating the route. Then let us not waste time, Cross said. If the archive is as intact as suggests, it could contain technology and information beyond anything we currently possess. They traveled together, the patrol ship and the Pathfinder, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the dead system. The star at its center was a dim red giant, its light weak and fatting. 2 planets remained, both stripped of their atmospheres long ago. Scan the second planet, Cross ordered his crew. The results came back quickly. There was a massive structure beneath the surface, buried under layers of dust and debris. It was still generating power somehow after thousands of years of abandonment. That is impossible, one of Cross's researchers said. Power sources do not last that long, not even our best reactors. Coalition technology was far ahead of what we have now, said Weekly. He had insisted on being brought to the bridge despite Maya's protests. They built things to last forever. This archive was meant to preserve their triumph over humanity for all time, their monument to genocide. They landed near the structure's entrance, a massive door half buried in the sand. The surface of the planet was airless and cold, so they wore environment suits as they approached. Jake, Lisa, Danny, and Maya went with Dr. Cross and 3 of his researchers, remained on the Pathfinder, too weak to make the journey. The door opened at their approach, ancient sensors still functioning. Inside, lights flickered to life, running on power that had been waiting for. The corridor stretched ahead of them, wide and tall. The walls were covered in symbols and writing from a dozen different languages. Cross's researchers began recording everything, their scanners working constantly. "This is incredible," Cross whispered. "These are the languages of the coalition species. The shifting minds, others I have only seen fragments of, all working together to document what they did." They reached a central chamber, and Jake stopped in his tracks. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadow above them. Holographic displays covered every surface, frozen in time, waiting for someone to activate them. Cross moved to a control panel that looked almost organic, its surface smooth and flowing. He touched it carefully, and the displays came to life. What they saw next would haunt Jake for the rest of his life. The hologram showed a world, green and beautiful, covered in cities that gleamed in the sunlight. Millions of people moved through the streets below, human people, living their lives in peace. Then the sky above the city filled with ships, and fire rained down from orbit. "This is from the first day of the war," his voice came through their comm link. He was watching through their helmet cameras. "The Festival of Stars, they called it. Your people celebrated the founding of their civilization, gathering on every world in your territory. We used that against you, struck when you were most vulnerable." The hologram shifted, showing battle after battle. Human soldiers fighting with desperate courage, protecting evacuation ships while their worlds died behind them. Families torn apart. Children crying for parents who would never come. Cities that had stood for centuries reduced to ash in minutes. But Jake also saw something else. He saw human defenders doing impossible things. A woman holding a force field with her bare hands while civilians escaped behind her. A man who seemed to know where every enemy shot would land, dodging through fire that should have killed him 10 times over. A medic touching wounded soldiers and watching their injuries heal in seconds. "You see," said, "this is what you were, this is what they feared." Dr. Cross was recording everything, his equipment capturing every detail. His hands shook as he worked. Maya discovered another section of the archive, files marked with symbols she could not read. Cross came to help her, translating as quickly as he could. "These are scientific reports," he said, his voice tight with anger. "Studies of captured humans. They were trying to understand how your abilities worked. They did experiments, terrible experiments on prisoners, men, women, even children." "Do not read more," said. "You do not need to see that darkness. Move forward. There is a section labeled Silence Protocol. That is what you need." They found the files, and Maya opened them. What she read made her feel sick. "They developed a genetic modification," she said. "A virus that would rewrite human DNA. It would target the specific genes responsible for the abilities and shut them down. Not remove them, but silence them. Make them inactive." "And it worked," Cross said, reading over her shoulder. "They released it into surviving human populations. Within 3 generations, every human carried the modified genes. The abilities were still there, buried deep in the genetic code, but they could not activate. They could not express themselves." "Why not just kill everyone?" Danny asked. "If they hated us so much, why let any humans survive?" "Because they needed workers," said. "Slaves to build their new order. They scattered humans across the galaxy, gave you false memories, put you on primitive worlds where you would never remember the stars. Earth was just one of many such prisons." Jake felt rage building inside him, hot and fierce. Thousands of years of lies, generations of humans living without knowing what they had lost. "Is there a cure?" he asked. "Can the silence protocol be reversed?" Maya searched through the files, her movements frantic. Then she stopped, her eyes wide. "There is a device here, a genetic sequencer. It holds the original human genetic template from before the modification. If we could use it, we could potentially restore the original DNA." "Where is this device?" Cross asked. Maya checked the archive map, 3 levels down in a sealed vault. They moved quickly through the facility, following the map. The vault door was massive, designed to withstand almost anything, but it opened when Cross entered a code he found in the archive files. Inside, on a pedestal in the center of the room, sat a cylinder about the size of a human forearm. It glowed with a soft blue light, still active after all these centuries. "This is it," Maya whispered. The genetic sequencer. With this, we could restore humanity to what it was meant to be. Cross reached for it carefully, then stopped. We need to consider what this means. If we use this, if we restore the abilities that were taken from us, it will change everything. Other species might see it as a threat. They might react the way the Coalition did. They might, Jake agreed. But keeping it hidden means accepting the crime that was done to us. It means staying victims forever. Before they could decide, alarms began blaring throughout the archive. The lights changed from blue to red, and its voice came through their comms, urgent and afraid. Get out now. Long-range sensors are picking up ships. They match Coalition designs. The Watchers, the automated defense systems, they are still active. They have detected your presence. Jake grabbed the genetic sequencer. Everyone back to the ships now. They ran through the corridors, the archive shaking around them as ancient weapons systems came online. Behind them, sections of the facility began to seal shut, trying to trap them inside. They reached the surface just as 6 massive ships emerged from the darkness between planets. The vessels were enormous, dwarfing even the Pathfinder. Their design was ancient but still deadly. "Those are warships," said. "Automated defense platforms left to guard this place. They have been waiting for 4,000 years for someone to find the archive, and now they will destroy anyone who knows the truth." Jake ran across the dusty surface of the planet, the genetic sequencer clutched tight against his chest. Behind him, energy beams cut through the thin atmosphere, turning sand into glass where they struck. The ancient warships hung in orbit above them, their weapons tracking every movement. "Get to the ships," Cross shouted, his researchers scrambling toward the Pathfinder. One of them tripped and fell, and Maya doubled back to help him up, pulling him forward even as the ground exploded nearby. Jake reached the patrol vessel and practically threw himself through the airlock. Lisa was already in the pilot's seat, engines hot and ready. "Everyone aboard." "Danny is still at the weapons station on the Pathfinder," Lisa said, checking her screens. "Cross wanted our best gunner helping coordinate their defense." Jake watched the ships maneuver into attack formation. They moved with eerie precision, no wasted motion, every action calculated by ancient computers that had been waiting thousands of years for this moment. "Pathfinder to patrol vessel," Cross's voice crackled over the comm. "We need to get out of this system, but those ships are blocking every exit vector. They are trying to box us in." Jake called to the medical bay. "You fought these things before. How do we beat them?" The alien's response was weak but urgent. "You cannot beat them in direct combat. They were designed to be superior to anything humans had, but they are old, running on ancient programming. They follow patterns. Watch how they move." Jake studied the tactical display. The 6 warships were spreading out, creating a sphere around the planet. Every time the Pathfinder tried to move toward open space, 2 ships would shift to block the path. "They are hurting us," Lisa said, "keeping us trapped in orbit." "Then we give them what they expect," Jake said, an idea forming. "Lisa, plot a course straight up away from the orbital plane, full thrust." "That will put us right between 2 of them," Lisa protested. "I know, do it." The patrol vessel shot upward, accelerating hard. The 2 nearest ships immediately moved to intercept, their weapons charging. Jake watched the distance close, his hands gripping the armrests. "Now brake left," he ordered. Lisa threw the ship into a sharp turn, the engines screaming. The ships adjusted their course to follow, but they were massive and slow to change direction. For a moment, a gap opened in their formation. "Pathfinder, go now," Jake shouted, "straight through the gap we made." Cross did not hesitate. The research vessel shot forward, its larger engines giving it speed the patrol ship could not match. It slipped through the opening and out into clear space. But the ships were already adapting. 2 of them broke formation to chase the Pathfinder, while the remaining 4 closed in on Jake's vessel. "They learned from that trick," Lisa said. "They will not fall for it again." Energy beams lanced past them, close enough that Jake could feel the heat through the hull. Lisa twisted and turned, using every bit of skill she had, but the patrol ship was small and lightly armed. Against 4 ancient warships, they had no chance. Then something impossible happened. Jake felt it first, a strange sensation in the back of his mind. It was like knowing which way the wind would blow before it started. He could see the weapons charging, see the firing solutions calculating, and somehow he knew exactly where each beam would strike before it fired. Left, hard left now, he shouted. Lisa reacted instantly, and a beam passed through the space they had just occupied. She looked at him with wide eyes. How did you know? I do not know, I felt it, Jake said, but there was no time to think about it. The feeling was growing stronger. Right, then dive, then straight ahead full thrust. Lisa followed his instructions without question, and each time a weapon fired, they were somewhere else. The ships increased their rate of fire, trying to overwhelm them with sheer volume, but Jake called out every move before the shots came. On the Pathfinder, something similar was happening. Danny Pierce sat at the weapons console, his hands moving faster than thought. He was targeting weak points on the ships that he should not have known existed, hitting power junctions and sensor arrays with impossible accuracy. "How are you doing that?" one of Cross's crew asked, watching in amazement. "I do not know," Danny said. "I can just see them, like the ship is telling me where to shoot." Dr. Cross was monitoring vitals from all the human crew members on both ships. What he saw made his blood run cold and his heart race at the same time. The stress of combat, the life or death situation, it is triggering something in your genetic code. The silence protocol is breaking down. Maya heard this from the medical bay and immediately ran her own scans. She looked at the readings in disbelief. It is not just breaking down, it is failing completely. Whatever genetic locks were placed on us, they are coming undone. On his medical bed, heard this and managed a weak laugh. 4,000 years they tried to keep you down. 4,000 years of genetic engineering and careful control. And in the end, all it took was real danger to wake you up again. Jake did not have time to process what was happening to him. He was too busy trying to keep his ship alive. But he could not deny what he was feeling. It was not just knowing where the attacks would come from. He could sense Lisa's intentions before she moved the controls. He could feel the stress patterns in the hull, knowing which sections could take damage and which could not. The patrol vessel and the Pathfinder fought together, moving with a coordination that should not have been possible. They covered each other, anticipating each other's moves without communication. It was like they were parts of a single organism. But the ships were adapting. Their ancient intelligence was analyzing the humans' fighting style, learning their patterns, preparing counters. "We cannot keep this up forever," Lisa said, sweat dripping down her face. "They are learning too fast." His voice came over the comm, urgent despite his weakness. "The fighter, my old fighter, still attached to your ship. It has weapons these machines remember. Let me use it." "You can barely breathe," Maya protested. "Flying a combat mission will kill you." "I am dying anyway," said. "Let me die doing something that matters. Let me fight on the right side for once." Jake made the decision in a heartbeat. "Maya, get him to the fighter. Strap him in and hook his life support to the ship's systems." Maya wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in his eyes. She helped him into a mobile medical unit and rushed him to the docking bay where his ancient fighter waited. The alien warrior pulled himself into the cockpit with his remaining strength. His forearms settled into controls that fit him perfectly, controls he had not touched in 4,000 years. The fighter's systems came online, recognizing their pilot. "To human vessels, I am launching. Follow my lead." The ancient fighter detached from the patrol ship and shot forward, accelerating faster than any human ship could match. The warships immediately focused their fire on it, recognizing the design as one of their old enemies. But flew like he was young again, like the weight of 4 had fallen away. He twisted through the incoming fire, his fighter's weapons locking onto the ships with deadly precision. "You think you know how to fight me?" said, his voice growing stronger with each word. "I trained the pilots who programmed you. I fought in battles you were built to remember. You know every trick in my playbook." He fired and his shots hit a ship's shield generator. The shield flickered and died. "But I learned new tricks in 4,000 years of running. I learned regret. I learned shame. I learned what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself." The patrol ship and Pathfinder concentrated fire on the damaged warship. With its shields down, their weapons tore through its armor. The ancient vessel shuddered and went dark, drifting in space. "One down," Danny shouted. 5 to go. But's fighter was taking damage. The ships had figured out his flight patterns, and their shots were getting closer. Alarms blared in his cockpit as systems failed one after another. "Pull back," Jake ordered. "You have done enough." "Not yet," the alien warrior said. Not until they know, not until they understand what they did wrong. He aimed his fighter at the largest of the warships and pushed his engines to maximum. The fighter accelerated, becoming a missile aimed at the enemy's heart. 4,000 years ago, we told ourselves that humans were too dangerous to live, said, his voice calm now. We said you would conquer the galaxy, enslave other species, destroy everything in your path. We used that fear to justify genocide. His fighter's weapon systems overloaded, channeling all power into one final shot. But I have seen your people now. I have watched you risk your lives to save one dying alien. I have seen you work together without hesitation, trusting each other completely. I have seen what you could have been if we had not tried to destroy you. The fighter hit the ship's hull and exploded, but not before its final shot penetrated deep into its core. The warship's reactor went critical, and the massive vessel tore itself apart in a cascade of explosions. In the medical bay of the patrol ship, the monitors connected to fighter went flat. Maya watched them with tears in her eyes. "He is gone," she whispered. The remaining ships seemed to pause, as if the loss of 2 of their number had triggered some new calculation in their ancient programming. Then they opened fire with everything they had, no longer trying to capture or contain. Now they only wanted to destroy. "Shields down to 30%, Lisa called out. "We cannot take much more of this." Jake felt something building inside him, something that had been sleeping his entire life. The genetics sequencer sat on the console beside him, its blue light pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He touched it, and suddenly he could feel the difference between what he was and what he could be. The locks in his DNA were breaking, falling away like chains he had never known he wore. And as they fell, he could feel his mind expanding, reaching out beyond the confines of his own skull. He could feel Lisa's determination, Maya's grief, Danny's rage. He could feel the crew of the Pathfinder, all of them experiencing the same awakening. And he could feel something else, something deeper. There were other humans out there, scattered across the galaxy. Thousands of them, millions, all carrying the same locked genes. And right now, in this moment of desperate need, the locks were breaking for all of them. Jake stood up from his command chair. He did not know what he was about to do, only that he had to try. "Lisa, take the controls. Maya, Danny, I need you both on the bridge. Cross, get everyone from your crew who can spare a moment and have them join hands." "What are you planning?" Cross asked. "I have no idea," Jake admitted. "But died to give us a chance. I am not going to waste it." He could feel it now, the gift that had been stolen from humanity. It was not about moving objects or seeing the future. Those were just symptoms of something deeper. It was about connection, about minds joining together and becoming more than the sum of their parts. Maya took his hand. Lisa kept one hand on the controls and reached back with the other. Danny joined the chain. On the Pathfinder, Cross and his crew did the same. Jake opened his mind and felt the others there with him. Their thoughts, their fears, their hopes. And through them, he could feel the ship itself, not as a machine, but as an extension of their combined will. The ships fired again, and this time Jake did not dodge. Instead, he reached out with his mind and pushed. The energy beams bent around the patrol ship, curving away like water around a stone. On the Pathfinder, Cross gasped as he felt the same power flowing through their crew. Their shields did not just hold, they grew stronger. "What is happening?" one of the researchers asked. "We are waking up," Cross said. "We are remembering what we were always meant to be." The ships increased their fire rate, trying to overwhelm this new defense. But with each attack, the humans grew stronger. The barriers they created were not technological, but something else entirely. Something the ancient warships had no programming to counter. Jake felt the strain of holding so much power, but he also felt the others supporting him. They were a crew, a team, a family, and together they were far more than any of them could be alone. "Time to go," he said. "Everyone focus on the edge of the system, picture us there." The 2 ships jumped, not through hyperspace, but through something else. They simply stopped being in one place and started being in another. The vessels tried to follow, but they were bound by conventional physics. By the time the ancient warships reached the edge of the system, the human vessels were long gone, carrying with them the genetic sequencer and the truth about humanity's past. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, humans who had never known what they were saw the patrol vessel, and the Pathfinder emerged from their impossible jump at the edge of human territory. Jake collapsed in his command chair, his whole body shaking from the effort of what they had just done. Around him, the others were equally exhausted, sweat dripping from their faces, hands trembling. "What just happened?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We do not have the technology to do what we just did." "It was not technology," Dr. Cross said over the comm. "It was us, all of us working together. That is what the inheritors could do. That is what we were." Maya ran medical scans on everyone aboard both ships. "We are all showing the same thing, massive genetic changes. The silence protocol is collapsing across our entire DNA structure. The locks are breaking faster now, like a dam starting to fail." Jake looked at his hands. They seemed the same, but he could feel the difference. There was power there, sleeping just beneath the surface. He could sense the minds of his crew, feel their emotions like colors in the air. It should have been frightening, but instead it felt right. Like he had been living his whole life with a blindfold on and someone had finally removed it. "Admiral Hayes is demanding an immediate conference," Lisa said. "Secure channel, highest priority." Jake straightened himself in his chair, trying to look more composed than he felt. "Put her through." The showed Admiral Hayes sitting at her desk, but she was not alone. Behind her stood several high-ranking officers and government officials. Their faces were a mixture of concern and barely contained excitement. "Lieutenant," Hayes began formally, "your report has caused quite a stir. We need you to return to Fleet Headquarters immediately for debriefing. The genetic sequencer must be secured and studied under controlled conditions." "With respect, Admiral, I do not think we have time for controlled conditions," Jake said. "Those warships are still out there, and they were just automated defense systems. If there are others, if there are actual coalition survivors, they will know we found the archive. They will come for us." One of the officials behind Hayes spoke up. "Then we need to prepare our defenses, not rush into something we do not understand. These genetic changes you are experiencing could be dangerous. We need time to study them properly." "Tell that to the millions of humans who are waking up right now," Dr. Cross said, joining the conference. "I have been monitoring communications channels. Reports are coming in from colonies across human space. People are experiencing spontaneous genetic changes, abilities manifesting without warning. We do not have the luxury of time." Jake saw the truth in what Cross was saying. He could feel it too, like a wave building across all of humanity. The silence protocol had been designed to last forever, but nothing lasts forever. And once it started to break down in one place, it started breaking down everywhere. "What do you recommend, Dr. Cross?" Hayes asked. "We need to be proactive. Share the genetic sequencer data with every medical facility in human space. Help people understand what is happening to them. Otherwise, we risk panic and chaos." "We also need to tell them the truth," Jake added. "About our history, about what was done to us, about his sacrifice. People deserve to know." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Agreed, but first, get back here. We need every person who has experienced these changes to help us understand them, and we need to decide how to present this to the Galactic Council." "The Council," Lisa said. "You are going to tell the other species." "We have to," one of the other officials said. "We cannot hide something this big, and if there are coalition remnants out there, the other species need to know. Some of them might be targets too." The conference ended, and Jake set course for Fleet Headquarters. It would take them 3 days to get there at maximum speed. 3 days during which the changes happening to humanity would only accelerate. On the second day, Maya volunteered to undergo the full genetic restoration using the sequencer. Dr. Cross set up the procedure in the Pathfinder's medical bay, with observers from both ships watching. "The process should take about 6 hours, Cross explained. "The sequencer will identify the silence protocol markers in Maya's DNA and replace them with the original sequences. There may be some discomfort." Some discomfort turned out to be an understatement. Jake watched through the observation window as Maya writhed on the medical bed, her body fighting against the changes being forced upon it. Her vital signs spiked and dropped wildly, and twice Cross had to pause the process to let her stabilize. But she never asked him to stop. She gritted her teeth and endured, determined to see it through. When it was finally over, Maya lay still for a long time. Then her eyes opened and Jake gasped. They were glowing faintly, a soft blue light that pulsed with her heartbeat. "How do you feel?" Cross asked. Maya sat up slowly, looking at her hands with wonder. I can feel everything. The ship, the engines, the life support systems. It is like they are all part of me. She closed her eyes and concentrated, and one of the medical scanners across the room lifted into the air without anyone touching it. Telekinesis, Cross breathed. One of the recorded abilities of the ancient inheritors. It is more than that, Maya said. I can sense the molecular structure of things. I could take this scanner apart and put it back together just by thinking about it. She opened her eyes and looked at Jake. And I can feel you, all of you. Your thoughts are like music I can almost hear. Over the next day, Maya learned to control her new abilities. She discovered she could heal injuries with a touch, just by understanding what was wrong and willing the cells to repair themselves. She could sense danger before it arrived, feel the intentions of others like ripples in water. This is what we lost, she said quietly. This is what they took from us. The news from other human worlds grew more urgent. People were manifesting abilities without guidance or understanding. Some could move objects with their minds. Others could sense emotions or heal wounds. A few reported being able to communicate telepathically with family members. But there were also problems. Some people could not control what was happening to them. There were reports of accidental injuries, of objects flying through the air when someone got angry, of overwhelming sensory input that drove people to isolation. We need to help them, Jake said. We need to teach them what Maya learned. Dr. Cross agreed. I am preparing instructional materials, but it would be better if they could learn from someone who has already gone through the process. Maya, would you be willing to make a public broadcast? Of course, Maya said without hesitation. They arrived at fleet headquarters to find the entire facility on high alert. Ships filled the orbital space around the station, more than Jake had ever seen in one place. Admiral Hayes met them in person at the docking bay. Things are moving faster than we expected, she said without preamble. An emergency session of the Galactic Council has been called. They want answers about what is happening to humanity, and they want them now. What are we going to tell them? Jake asked. The truth, or at least as much of it as we can prove. Hayes led them through the station to a secure conference room. Inside, a holographic display showed the faces of representatives from dozens of alien species. Ambassador Santos stood at the head of the table. She was a veteran diplomat, someone who had spent 30 years navigating the complex politics of galactic society. But even she looked stressed. Lieutenant Dr. Cross, thank you for coming, she said. The Council has questions, many questions, about the reports coming from human space. They are asking if we are developing some kind of biological weapon. A weapon? Jake said, anger flashing through him. We are recovering what was stolen from us. We are healing from a genocide that happened 4,000 years ago. And they are terrified, Santos said bluntly. Because the reports of what individual humans can do now match old stories, old warnings about a species that nearly destroyed the galaxy. Dr. Cross stepped forward. Then let us show them the truth. Let us show them the archive data. Let them see what the Coalition did to humanity. Let them see testimony. Some of them do not want to see it, Santos said. Some of them have ancestors who were part of the Coalition. They would rather keep the past buried. Then they are cowards, Lisa said, and we should not let cowards decide our future. Hayes held up a hand for silence. We will present our evidence to the Council. We will tell story. We will show them what we found. And we will let them decide how to respond. But we need to be prepared for the possibility that some species will react with fear rather than understanding. What about the Coalition remnants? Danny asked. The ships we fought were just automated defenses. Somewhere out there might be actual survivors, the ones who planned and executed the genocide. That is another reason we need galactic cooperation, Hayes said. If Coalition forces are still active, they are a threat to everyone, not just humanity. We need allies. The presentation to the Galactic Council took place 2 days later. Jake stood before the assembled representatives with Maya and Dr. Cross beside him. On the screens behind them, footage from the archive played. The destruction of human worlds, the testimonies of Coalition commanders, the scientific reports on the Silence Protocol. And finally, last words recorded during the battle. Before I die, I have told you who humans really are. Now show the galaxy. Show them we were wrong. The chamber was silent when the presentation ended. Then the representative of a species of crystalline beings, rose to speak. "We have stories," they said, their voice like chimes in the wind. "Stories passed down since the ancient times, stories of the inheritors who came to our world when we were primitive and dying. They taught us to reach the stars. They asked nothing in return. We have waited 4,000 years for them to come back." Other species began to speak. Some shared similar stories of ancient help from a mysterious benefactor species. Others admitted their ancestors had been part of the coalition, and they offered formal apologies for crimes committed ago. But not all reactions were positive. The representative of the Empire stood, their face twisted with suspicion. "How do we know this is not a trick? How do we know humanity is not using this story to justify developing dangerous abilities? Your people could threaten all of us." "Then you understand how we felt 4,000 years ago," another voice said. On the screen, a new face appeared. It was an alien Jake did not recognize, with features that seemed to shift and change as they spoke. "I am a shifting mind, one of the species that participated in the genocide. We have carried the guilt of that crime across the centuries. We have watched humanity from the shadows, waiting for this day." The shifting mind's image into something more stable. "We know what the coalition did. We know because we were there. And we know that the fear we felt then was baseless. Humans were never the threat we made them out to be. We created our own enemy through paranoia and ambition." "You admit to genocide?" the representative demanded. "We admit to our crime, and we offer what help we can to repair the damage done. We have resources, technology, knowledge that could help humanity reclaim their heritage safely. We owe them that much." The council descended into chaos, with different species arguing over what should be done. Some wanted restrictions placed on human genetic restoration. Others wanted a full investigation into the old coalition. Still others wanted to pretend none of this had ever happened. In the middle of the debate, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Admiral Hayes received an urgent message, and her face went pale. "We have a problem," she announced. "Long-range sensors are picking up a massive fleet emerging from deep space. Hundreds of ships, all matching coalition designs. They are heading straight for Earth." Jake felt his blood run cold. "The Watchers at the archive must have sent a signal before we destroyed them. They called in reinforcements." "How long until they reach Earth?" Santos asked. 4 days at their current speed," Hayes said. "We need to evacuate." "Evacuate 5 billion people in 4 days," Cross said. "That is impossible." "Then we fight," Jake said. "We use what we have learned. We use our abilities. We show them that humanity will never be silent again." Maya stepped forward, her eyes glowing with that strange blue light. "Send a message to every human in the fleet, every human on every world. Tell them what is coming. Tell them we need them, not just their ships or weapons. We need their minds, their gifts, their connection to each other." "You want to try what we did at the archive?" Lisa asked. "On a galactic scale." "I do not know if it will work," Maya admitted. "But died to give us a chance to be who we were meant to be. I am not going to waste that. None of us should." Admiral Hayes looked at the faces of the young crew before her. They had gone into space as ordinary officers on a routine patrol. They had come back as something more, something that might save their entire species. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, peaceful and unaware of the threat racing toward it. But around the planet, the largest human fleet ever assembled was taking shape. Ships came from every colony, every outpost, every corner of human space. Military vessels, cargo haulers, even civilian transports. Anyone who could fly was coming home. Jake stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, now just one among thousands. The tactical display showed the coalition fleet approaching, a red wave of ancient warships that outnumbered them 10 to 1. 4 days had become 4 hours, and soon it would be 0. "Final count is 8,000 human vessels," Lisa reported. "Against 80,000 coalition ships, the numbers are not in our favor." "Numbers never were our advantage," Maya said. She had become something of a symbol in the past few days. Footage of her demonstrating the restored abilities had spread across human space, giving people hope. Now she coordinated the volunteers who had the genetic restoration, helping them understand and control their new gifts. Dr. Cross worked frantically in the science lab, analyzing the coalition fleet composition. "These ships are old but well-maintained. Someone has been keeping them operational for thousands of years. The technology is actually ahead of ours in many ways." "But they are automated, right?" Danny asked. No living crews. Mostly automated, Cross confirmed. Though long-range scans show some vessels with life signs. Coalition survivors, probably. The ones who have been hiding in deep space all this time, waiting for humanity to reveal itself again. Admiral Hayes broadcast to the entire human fleet. This is it, people. In a few hours, we face an enemy that nearly destroyed us once before. They think we are still the broken species they left behind. They think we are still weak and divided. Let us show them how wrong they are. Jake felt it then, the connection that Maya had been teaching them about. It started as a whisper in the back of his mind, then grew stronger. He could sense the other pilots around him, thousands of minds touching his own. They were afraid, all of them, but they were also determined. The Coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Their formation was perfect, decades of automated coordination showing in every movement. They began their approach toward Earth, weapons charging, shields activating. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, Lisa said. Want me to put it through? Do it, Hayes ordered. A face appeared on every screen in the human fleet. It was one of the species that had led the original coalition. But this one was old, incredibly old. Its scales were cracked and faded, its eyes sunken but still burning with ancient hatred. I am Supreme Commander of the Purification Coalition, the alien said. 4,000 years ago, we made a mistake. We allowed some of your kind to survive. We thought the silence protocol would keep you contained forever. But you have broken free. You have remembered what you were. This cannot be allowed. Jake wanted to respond with anger, but Maya put a hand on his shoulder. He felt her calm flowing into him, steadying him. We offer you one chance, continued. Submit to purification. Allow us to properly erase your dangerous genetics. Those who comply will be allowed to live as servants to the new galactic order. Those who resist will be eliminated. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. The human fleet was silent for a moment, then the communication channels exploded with voices. Anger, defiance, determination. Not one person suggested surrender. Ambassador Santos sent a response, broadcast to both the Coalition fleet and the Galactic Council, which was watching from a safe distance. The answer is no. Humanity will never be prisoners again. We will never accept slavery. We will never forget who we are. His response was simple. Then you will die as your ancestors did. The Coalition fleet accelerated, closing the distance to Earth. Their weapons began firing at extreme range, testing the human defenses. The first shots were intercepted by orbital defense platforms, but there were too many targets and not enough platforms. All ships defensive formation, Hayes ordered. Protect Earth at all costs. The human fleet moved to intercept, spreading out to create a barrier between the Coalition and there. Jake took his position in the line, feeling the presence of the ships around him. Lisa at navigation, Danny at weapons, Maya coordinating the awakened humans across the fleet. The first real exchange of fire was devastating. Coalition ships had superior shields and weapons. 3 human vessels exploded in the opening seconds, their crews dying before they could even return fire. But the humans adapted quickly, using the tactics they had learned fighting the automated ships. Jake felt the connection growing stronger, not just with his own crew, but with every human in the battle. It was like Maya had described, a web of minds all touching each other, sharing information faster than any computer network. When a pilot 3 ships away spotted a weak point in a Coalition cruiser's shields, Jake knew about it instantly. When Danny found a firing solution that worked, hundreds of other gunners used the same approach. When Lisa discovered a maneuver that confused the enemy tracking systems, every navigator felt it. They were fighting as one organism with 8,000 bodies, and slowly, impossibly, they began to push back. On one of the Coalition command ships watched the battle with growing frustration. They should not be able to do this. Our ships are superior. Our numbers are overwhelming. How are they matching us? They are using the gifts, Commander, one of his officers reported. Just as their ancestors did, they are coordinating on a level our systems cannot match. Then we use the silence weapon, decided. We will shut down their abilities permanently this time. A massive vessel at the center of the Coalition fleet began to glow with an eerie green light. Maya felt it first, a pressure building against her mind like a wall closing in. They have a weapon, she gasped. Something that targets our abilities directly. I can feel it charging. Dr. Cross scanned the vessel and his face went pale. It is a genetic disruptor. If they fire that thing, it will rewrite the DNA of every human in range. It will not just silence our abilities, it will kill us. How long until it fires? Hayes demanded. 3 minutes, maybe less. Jake looked at the tactical display. The weapon ship was protected by layers of coalition vessels, deep in their formation. There was no way to reach it in time with conventional weapons. Maya, he said, what we did at the archive when we jumped the ships, can we do that again? Can we jump something into the middle of their fleet? Maya understood immediately. Not a ship, too much mass, too much complexity, but something smaller maybe. Like a missile, Danny said. We could jump a warhead right next to that weapon ship. I have never tried to move something that far, Maya said. I would need help, a lot of help. You have it, Jake said. He opened his mind fully, reaching out to every awakened human in the fleet. Everyone, we need you. Focus on Maya, give her your strength. Across 8,000 ships, humans closed their eyes and concentrated. They had never met Maya, most of them, but they could feel her through the connection, feel her desperate need, and they answered. Maya gasped as power flooded into her. It was like standing in a river of pure energy, more than she had ever imagined possible. She could feel each individual mind supporting her, thousands of them, all focused on a single goal. Danny armed the largest warhead their ship carried and launched it on a trajectory toward empty space. Then Maya reached out with the combined will of thousands of humans and moved it. The missile simply disappeared from one location and appeared in another, right next to the weapon ship's reactor core. It detonated before the coalition crew could react, and the weapon ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The shockwave took out a dozen coalition vessels nearby. More importantly, it destroyed the genetic disruptor before it could fire. Stared at the empty space where his weapon ship had been. Impossible. That level of coordination, that much power, they have surpassed even their ancestors. But he was not ready to give up. All ships, concentrated fire on Earth itself. If we cannot silence them, we will destroy there. Thousands of coalition ships turned their weapons toward the blue planet below. Earth's orbital defenses would never be enough to stop such an assault. Billions of people would die. Maya felt the incoming attack building. She reached out again, calling on every awakened human, and this time they knew what to do. They did not need her to guide them. They simply acted as one. A shield appeared around Earth, not made of metal or energy, but of pure will. Thousands of humans thinking the same thought, creating the same defense. It was invisible to sensors, but undeniably real. Coalition weapons fired, and the beams struck the shield. For a moment, it seemed like nothing happened. Then the energy simply scattered, dispersing harmlessly into space. Maintain the shield, Hayes ordered. Everyone focus. But even as they held the defense around Earth, the battle continued. Coalition ships pressed their attack, trying to break through to the planet. Human vessels fought desperately to hold them back. Then something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing at the edge of the battle, vessels that were not human or coalition. They had come, their crystalline ships glowing with inner light. Behind them came the shifting minds, their vessels changing shape constantly. More species followed, dozens of them, all coming to humanity's aid. This is the fleet, a musical voice broadcast. We owe the inheritors a debt 4,000 years old. Today we repay it. This is the shifting mind collective, another voice said. We helped commit this crime, now we help end it. The galactic species that remembered the old stories, that had preserved the truth about what humanity had been, they all came. Not enough to overwhelm the coalition by themselves, but enough to even the odds. Watched his advantage disappearing. Cowards, traitors, you know what humans will become if we let them rise again. We know what they were, they responded. Gardeners, teachers, friends, we were fools to fear them then. We will not make that mistake again. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed, lives lost by the thousands. But slowly, steadily, the coalition fleet began to fall back. Their automated vessels could not match the coordination of the Allied forces. Their living commanders were too few to control such a massive fleet effectively. Jake felt exhaustion setting in. Maintaining the mental connection for so long was draining everyone. But they could not stop now, not when they were so close to victory. Then Maya screamed. Through the connection, everyone felt it. The largest coalition ship's flagship had armed its self-destruct. Not a normal self-destruct, but something far worse. A weapon designed to tear a hole in space itself. "He is going to create a black hole," Dr. Cross said in horror. "Right here in Earth's solar system, it will consume everything within a light year." "Can we stop it?" Hayes asked. "Not with conventional weapons. The process has already started." Maya looked at Jake and he saw the decision in her eyes. "No, you cannot." "Someone has to," she said. "Someone has to get on that ship and manually shut down the reactor before it reaches critical mass. And it needs to be someone who can navigate their defenses, who can sense where to go and what to do." "Then I am going with you," Jake said. "Me too," Lisa added. "All of us," Danny agreed. Maya smiled through her tears. "Okay, all of us together then." They took a small shuttle, the fastest ship they had. As they approached flagship, coalition ships moved to intercept, but the Allied fleet covered them, creating a path through the chaos of battle. The shuttle landed in the flagship's hangar, and the four of them ran through corridors filled with automated defenses and ancient technology. Maya could sense the reactor ahead, sense the chain reaction building toward catastrophe. They had minutes at most. They found in the reactor control room. The old was alone, his hands on the controls, determined to see this through to the end. "You should have stayed silent," he said when he saw them. "You should have accepted your place." "Our place was never as your prisoners," Jake said. "You will destroy yourselves with your power," insisted. "It is in your nature, that is why you must be stopped." Maya walked toward the control panel and pulled a weapon, but before he could fire, she touched his mind. Not to attack, but to show him. She showed him the past 4 days. Humans working together, sacrificing for each other, protecting their world not through domination, but through unity. She showed him's final words, the regret of a warrior who had fought on the wrong side. His weapon wavered. "I have spent 4,000 years believing I was right, that we did what we had to do." "You were wrong," Maya said gently, "and it is not too late to do something right." For a long moment the old stood frozen. Then slowly he lowered his weapon. "I cannot shut down the reactor. The process has gone too far, but I can slow it down, give you time to get your people clear." "What about you?" Danny asked. "I am old, I am tired, I have lived too long in hate." Moved to the controls. "Go, tell them what I could not say, tell them some of us knew we were wrong even then, some of us knew." They ran back to the shuttle, buying them time with his dying strength. They were barely clear of the flagship when it exploded, a controlled detonation that destroyed the ship, but contained the black hole before it could form. The coalition fleet, seeing their commander dead and their weapon failed, began to surrender. Some ships tried to flee, but most simply powered down their weapons and accepted defeat. The battle for Earth was over. In the days that followed, the galaxy began to change. The truth about the ancient genocide could not be hidden anymore. Species that had participated, willingly or not, had to confront their history. Reparations were discussed. Treaties were written. The Galactic Council underwent massive reforms. But for Jake and his crew, the real work was just beginning. Humanity had to rebuild, had to learn to use their restored abilities responsibly. Maya established schools to teach control and understanding. Dr. Cross continued his research, finding more lost human populations across the galaxy, helping them remember who they were. A memorial was built in orbit around Earth, dedicated to and all the others who had died in the ancient war. At the dedication ceremony, Jake spoke to a crowd of millions, both human and alien. 4,000 years ago, someone decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist, he said. They tried to erase us, to make us forget. They almost succeeded. But one warrior, one member of the coalition who hunted us, he could not live with what he had done. In his final hours, he gave us back our truth. Jake looked up at the stars, at the ships from 100 different species that had come to witness this moment. Told me something before he died. He said, "Before you die, I will tell you who humans really are." He kept that promise, and now we have to decide what we do with that knowledge. We could use our abilities to dominate, to take revenge, to prove we are superior. Or we can be what we were always meant to be: gardeners, healers, teachers, protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. He activated the memorial, and holographic images appeared around it. Images from the archive, images of ancient humanity helping other species, building rather than destroying, healing rather than hurting. "This is who we were," Jake said. "This is who we choose to be again." Maya stood beside him, her hand in his. Around them, thousands of awakened humans held hands with each other and with their alien allies. The connection between them was visible now, a soft blue light that flowed from person to person, mind to mind. They were different now, all of them, changed by the truth they had learned, by the abilities they had regained. But they were also the same, still human, still capable of love and sacrifice and hope. Lisa looked at the earth below, at the world that had been their prison and their home. "What do we do now?" "Now we explore," Jake said. "We find the other lost populations. We rebuild what was destroyed. We make sure nothing like the Coalition ever happens again." "And we remember," Maya added. We remember the price of fear and hatred. We remember what happens when we forget who we are." Danny smiled, and for the first time in days, it was a smile of genuine joy. "So basically, we save the galaxy." "Basically," Jake agreed. They stood together, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were more humans, still sleeping, still locked away. Somewhere out there were new worlds waiting to bloom with life, new species waiting to learn, new challenges waiting to be faced. But they would face them together, not as the broken remnants of a destroyed civilization, but as the inheritors, as humanity restored. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, people would tell the story of the ancient warrior who gave his life to tell the truth, the story of the humans who woke up, the story of the day the galaxy learned what it means to be human. Before You Die had said, "I will tell you who humans really are." Now the whole galaxy knew, and they would never forget again. "Send the message," Hayes ordered. "Call them all home, call every human with even a spark of the gift. We are going to defend Earth, and we are going to do it together." To wake up. The warships opened fire, and the battle for humanity's future began. Jake looked then at his own hands. He thought about the strange feeling he sometimes had, like he was meant for something more, like there was something sleeping inside him, waiting to wake up. Tell them we found someone who knows what happened to humanity before Earth. Tell them everything is about to change.